Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. Joan served the state of California as a member on the Arts Council and on the Film Commission. She was formerly on the Architectural Commission and fulfilled 2 terms on the Fine Arts Commission for the city of Beverly Hills. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview magazine, Condé Nast Publications, and the Hearst Corporation, Joan covered the world of fashion, the mysteries of food, the excitement of theater, and the international art scene. She continues to find people who are on the cutting edge of their professions. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Agajanian Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're here taping in West Hollywood, and I'm going to interview today entertainer, chef Alex Hitz, and artist-director Robie Cavolina, who did this wonderful pot holder, which is quite apropos because we're going to be talking to Alex, who's a chef. I don't think you can use a pot holder that big, can
It's a
you?
little big. It's a little big.
So Alex is an author, chef, entertainer, producer, and he was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, earned a Bachelor of Arts from Washington and Lee College, and a certificate from the Cordon Bleu in Paris. He was raised with lots of Southern non-cooks, but they all had sweet hospitality ideas. Only his mother was interested in cooking, and I think it must have rubbed off on you. She also was quite gracious.
Listen, she was the loveliest. She came from a family where none of the women ever knew how to cook or wanted to.
I love that in the book.
And she went to Paris to school. She fell in love with food. She came and she brought that love of food back to the South. And that was the food that I grew up with.
And that is my Beverly Hills Kitchen with
Classic Southern cooking with a French twist.
with a French twist,
That's
which
it.
is pretty cool. So it came from your mom or it came from the Cordon Bleu?
It came from both. It came from both. I went and refined, my skills at the Cordon Bleu in Paris, but I did everything sort of backwards.
But I think the great thing is, as a teen in the South, you interned in a restaurant.
I interned in a restaurant that I ended up buying.
I know, that's what was such a great circle, right? It
Yeah.
came full circle.
But let me tell you, the interning in the restaurant is far different than being an owner of a restaurant. And I was in that business for several years, and it cured me from ever wanting to be in that business again. And I actually went out of food, went out of the whole thing for 16 years.
But that's when you produced in New York?
I was a Broadway producer.
I know. How'd you get into that?
It is such a crazy story. It's such a crazy story. But my stepfather was a symphony conductor who won the Kennedy Center honor one year. And
Robert Shaw.
that was right.
And he was a Grammy Award winner.
Only about 38 times.
That many times. Did they live here in L.A.?
No, they lived in Atlanta.
And he did all of that work, and all that Grammy Award stuff came from Atlanta?
It did. It came from New York in the 40s. It started, he had the first classical record that ever went gold in the 50s and like that. But he started in New York in the 40s. He then went from popular music to classical music. He started the Atlanta Symphony, and that's how he came to Atlanta. So
that's what he was?
Yeah.
So he's conducting the Atlanta Symphony?
yeah.
Because he was a great name and
Yeah.
a great force. And one of the questions I was going to ask you is, how influential was he? Was his influence going to Broadway to produce?
Yes and no. He was very, I grew up to a large extent backstage because I was 3 years old when he married my mother. Yeah.
So you were raised with him,
Yeah.
really?
I think I went to the Hollywood Bowl when I was about 5 years old. It was fantastic.
I know.
But he was very encouraging of the Broadway career. My mother had already died by that time, so
really?
she didn't ever see that. But he was very encouraging of the Broadway career. So.
And what did the Broadway career bring? Drama or musicals?
It was 3 musicals that flopped. One flop. One flop after the next. So, that's exactly
One flop after the next.
3 spectacular flops. That's what happened.
How great to be
Yeah,
able
great.
to talk about it,
So,
right?
and that's how I started coming out here. I had produced 3 flops on Broadway, so everybody said, "Oh, you have to try TV and you have to try movies and all this." So I would come out to have the big meetings in California, and I fell in love with the weather. And
So let's go back to the patio.
Okay.
The patio.
So,
and that spawned a lot of recipes in this book.
It did. It did.
It spawned a lot.
But that Broadway career is the reason that I'm in the world that I'm in now, okay?
Which is chefing again?
Yes, chefing and writing. I'm a writer and a chef.
Right, okay.
And I go all over the country doing big events and things like that. So it's great. But because of that Broadway career, I started spending time in Los Angeles. I built a house in Los Angeles. I had a kitchen in that house, and I went back in the kitchen. And this one and that one would come for lunch, come for dinner, and say, it's so good you have to sell it. So that's how it all started.
And then you went on the home shopping?
That's exactly right. I started on QVC.
Okay, yeah.
I started on QVC.
Doing what?
I sold luxury gourmet, you can't ever tell it's been frozen food, okay? And I happened to go on to QVC selling that luxury gourmet, you can't ever tell it's been frozen food. It was beef bourguignon, and it was the day after the Julie and Julia movie came out. So everybody had beef bourguignon on their minds.
And that was such a great movie.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was great.
And so you were right with it.
I was right with it. And so I had that product on QVC, and then we moved the brand to the Home Shopping Network.
Wow.
And I spent 5 years on the Home Shopping
Network. And what was
Network.
it called?
The Beverly Hills Kitchen.
Oh, it was the
Yeah.
Beverly Hills Kitchen. So this book, which is so beautifully photographed.
Thank you.
The photography, you could feel when fried chicken, you could see.
You want to eat that, don't you?
Yeah. You could see how hot it is before you put the chicken into it.
Exactly.
You can see it bubbling.
So-
So tell us about this, because did this come from the patio?
No, that's a recipe that I developed, and it is what Southern Living calls the best fried chicken in the world.
And why?
Okay, well, I don't know why they call it that, but I'm sure glad that they do
good?
it.
Why is it so good?
You don't marinate it overnight. There's nothing to it, but there's so much flavor. I don't want to say 11 herbs and spices because we all know what that is, right?
Yeah.
This is onions and garlics and chili powder and oregano and paprika and like this, and it's really, truly so easy, and it's got a wonderful character all its own. And they say,
I love this cover with you holding it.
that's me holding that fried chicken.
I said.
I
so
want to give you
go
some.
on.
I should have brought some for
I
you. I'm so
know.
sorry. But they say Southern Living says it's the best one in the world, and they should know.
Okay. So that did not come from the patio.
It didn't come from the patio.
But one of the things that came from the patio, and I think your mother said it, was that you love to do menus. Because the back of this book has great menus for all the seasons, right?
That's right.
So tell me about those. You made a menu for your birthday party?
Well, when I was 3, I planned the menu for my birthday party. Would you like to hear it? It's
Do
a
you
fabulous
remember?
menu. It's a fabulous menu. It's really, really good. And there's got to be there's a picture of it in here somewhere. I will find that. But the menu was Virginia ham sandwiches
Delicious.
with Ruffles potato chips on white bread. Not all of it together. Here we go, right here.
How cute.
Okay.
Let me
Now,
hold it.
Do you see that? There's a lot happening in that photograph. Okay, that's me at the head of the table.
Oh, yes.
There is a glittering piñata hanging from the chandelier.
Oh, how adorable.
Now, I planned the menu. It's the napkins that match the bibs that match the tablecloth. You see, even as a toddler, I was serious about linens. Now, also, there
this
is a
side?
heaping platter of those gorgeous sandwiches right there. And it's under Marc Chagall's watercolor of Paris, which has been a gift from Alice B. Toklas's.
Oh, really? To your mom?
Yes,
Oh, how great. Oh, when your mother was in Paris.
exactly.
Oh, how great. So, birthday parties. You had a big party, a summer party at the tennis club, Beverly Hills Tennis Club. And that menu was pretty cool. What was that?
Well, I worked within the framework of what the tennis club does best, okay, and that is barbecue. So it's what they call out in California barbecue. Now in the South we call it something different, but that's what they call it in California.
They don't do that? They don't call it barbecue?
Well, you don't grill hot dogs and hamburgers and call it barbecue. Barbecue is something that's spit roasted with the sauce and a thing. Okay, so but in California it's called barbecue. So there's hot dogs and hamburgers and salmon and wonderful handmade sausages and lots of salads and fried chicken, and I mean it was great. It was great.
Did you do your fried chicken?
Well, I caused it to be done. I didn't
That's
do
what
it.
I mean.
I didn't do it myself this year, but it was my recipe.
So we have some other recipes in here that are great that you talk about.
I thought you'd never ask.
Oh, but let's talk about what? The cake?
Oh, that's the best. That is so good.
There's another cake there. You just went by.
That's a great cake too. That's a hummingbird cake, but this one is something sensational. That is salted caramel cake. Now, in the South, when I grew up, every time there was a wedding, a birthday, or a funeral, caramel cake was trotted out. This one is taken to the foodie limit. It is even more delicious than the old one because it's sort of no cheats, no syrups, none of that. It's all handmade with really, really, really good ingredients, and it is.
Is it a white cake?
It's a yellow cake.
It's a yellow cake.
It's a
What's
yellow
the
cake.
difference?
Egg yolks.
The yellow and
egg yolks.
And white. Egg yolks.
Egg yolks.
Makes it.
That's right.
Okay, so this is a great dessert. What would we eat before that? Do we have something else? Oh, this is cute.
Oh my God! Look at that.
Is this you?
Okay, that's 3. I'm 3 years old there.
And that's the preface to what we were talking about.
I'm 3 years old, and
let's do.
There we go. That's a great one right there.
Okay, this is back to the patio, right?
That's it. That was the biggest selling dish at the Patio by the River, which was my restaurant with Mary Boyle Hathaway, who's in my book. But anyway, and it was the absolute #1 biggest seller on the Home Shopping Network too.
That was too.
It was. They went nuts over it. And you know what I would say?
I'm
going to tell you my secret, Joan. Can I tell you my secret to sell the most salmon in the whole world? I would say those omegas. Okay, this is what I would say on television. I mean,
we
those
need them,
omegas.
Right?
I didn't say that because the Home Shopping Network would say you cannot make any health claims. Don't make any health claims.
Oh, right.
So I made no health claims, but I said those omegas.
Yeah.
And it went nuts. They wanted those omegas. They didn't know exactly why they wanted those omegas, but they wanted them.
And how did you sell them? Did they just go out frozen?
They went out frozen piece by piece by piece by dry ice, and it would arrive 2 days later.
Oh,
so
wow.
it was packs of 10, and then they were individually wrapped and
fantastic.
ready in 30 seconds.
And one other thing, we're talking about all this Southern cooking and great things that you've done. So Edna Lewis.
Okay, so Edna Lewis, when I had the Patio by the River, one of the things that I did, I would have visiting celebrity chefs. Okay, and Edna Lewis was one who came one night and did a dinner. And she said that our quail salad was the best one that she'd ever tasted in her life, the quail marinade and all that. It's all in this book here. But she was such an amazing person. Anyway, Edna was a great, great, great lady.
Well.
And in fact, the chef who wrote the book about her, who was her great friend and everything, he actually met her when she came to do the dinner at my restaurant. He came to work in the kitchen then also.
How great. So. Yeah, that was wonderful. And you have wonderful memories of every place you've lived. Yeah, we're here. And we're glad you came over to talk to us. Thank you.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And don't go away because we're going to have our potholed artist, Robie Cavolina, come on next. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're taping here in West Hollywood, and I'm with award-winning artist, writer, filmmaker, Robie Cavolina, who was born and raised in New York, graduated from Otis Parsons with a BA, and went on to develop techniques for printing photos on slabs of concrete. And he received a Grammy for art directing his Joni Mitchell stuff in 1996, that album. And then he co-directed and produced a documentary on Anita O'Day, the life of a jazz singer. And his potholder is on the set. His potholder show is just presented. It was just presented by Craig Krull in Bergamot Station and the Sloan Project. So, let's go way back to Otis Parsons, because I think you had a lot of great teachers there.
Oh.
And I think they all seem to influence what you were doing in different ways.
A matter of fact, Margaret Nielsen and Scott Greiger have their show up right now over by the County Museum. They all were great.
And who else taught you?
I studied under Carol Karumpus, Gene Sturman, Rick Ogans, Lita Albuquerque.
Oh, Rick has got a show up too, yeah.
Lita.
And Lita's fantastic. Really?
Lita.
They all were your teachers?
And Mike Kelly and
Wow.
Roy Dell.
Really?
And Barbara Thomason. And
They
Tom Woodle. I had Tom Woodle as well.
They were all there teaching?
Oh, yeah.
That's fantastic.
And then I used to latch on to other people that were really interesting, like Rosemary Brantley and Mary Kay Stoltz in the fashion department.
Right, because I was working in the fashion department with them.
Well, you know, I was a big fan of yours then, and I am now.
It was great because they were kind of new. Rosemary was kind of new to that, and I knew all the fashion designers, so I would bring them in, and they would be critics for those first classes.
So, those fashion shows they did were fantastic. But I would see you there curating and doing these great shows, and I'd be like, I love that woman. I love her.
Robbie, I was so glad when you knew who I was the other day.
No, I wanted to know you back then. But
did you realize that at the time, how influenced those teachers were going to be on you?
Absolutely.
Oh, you did feel it?
They were personal. Anita O'Day would call people like Carol Karumpus and Mike Kelly personality plus.
Oh, she would say that. She didn't know them, though. So how did you get into Anita O'Day, talking about her?
Well, Anita, I met her I was invited to Stanley Kramer and his wife Karen were doing a special Anita performance, a showcase at the Vine Street Bar and Grill. Susan Terrell, the actress, Fat City, was supposed to be, she was my neighbor, and she was supposed to be playing Anita. So she said, come with me to see this jazz singer. You're going to love her. You love that kind of music. So I get to Vine Street with Susu, and we sat there like this.
It was so great.
It was like watching Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald combined.
And then how did you make a
Well,
film?
I went up to her and we talked, and I went to the phone and I said, Dad, I called my dad. I go, do you know this Anita O'Day chick? She's really, really kooky. And he goes, Anita O'Day, don't you dare call her kooky. She's my favorite singer, and she's the greatest jazz singer that ever lived. She's better than everybody else, no matter what you say or anybody says. So I was like, okay. So I started listening to her music. 5 years down the road, Gregory Poe called me up and said, hey, Anita's really sick. You should go see her, because I know you guys had struck up a friendship before she dies, because she's really sick.
So it was 5 years later.
Yes. So 5 years later, I go to this retirement hotel, where it's a hotel. It was supposed to be a rehab. Because she was really sick. She's got a broken arm from her accident that she was supposedly dying from. She's wearing a blue and green 60s bathing suit, and then putting rollers in her hair with her one hand like this, and rubbing oil on her, and sitting in the sun in the backyard of the retirement home, curling her hair. And she said, get in here. So we sat and talked, and I fell in love with her. And I said, how much is it going to cost to buy the rights? Because I knew that Stanley Kramer had passed away. So I knew they were available.
Had they made that film?
They didn't make it.
But this was a doc. And they weren't making a doc.
No, I wasn't making a doc either.
Oh, you weren't?
I wrote a script based on her book, which is a notable New York Times bestseller, Anita O'Day, High Times, Hard Times. Great book. And I started listening to the music, and I fell in love, and I wrote a script, and then finally I said to myself, she's alive. Make a documentary first, and then you can do something else, because every great jazz documentary, they do them after the person's gone.
I know, you were so smart to think about it, because you have footage of her.
Well, that's the thing.
And that footage is like, she's all kind of wrinkly and old.
Well, the Arquettes lent me their father's, who had just passed away, his 8mm video camera. This is 99, remember? So I borrowed their video camera. Very, very great family. So I go to Anita's place and I interview her for 2 hours. Then I go, let's do another interview tomorrow. This is 99. Then she goes, okay, great, come by tomorrow. Really? So a year later, I got to do the second interview. But we went to Musso's, we went to every jazz club.
Did people recognize her or not?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they did recognize her?
Oh, yeah. They went crazy over her. As a matter of fact, Joan, we moved to New York together to record a record, and to just like be in New York. I thought she could, she was playing the Atlas Bar and Grill, and getting paid $100 a night. In New York, she was getting $8,000 a night. So she got booked in the club that Les Paul was playing on Mondays, and she would play Tuesdays. And
what great names you're talking about, right? Yeah. And what good times.
And I got to meet all these people, and
you interviewed. How'd you get the list of people to interview?
Well, I carefully chose who would be good. I didn't go after the star names. I went after people that actually played with her and knew her. And and that's the part about making art. You have to do something that's specific to what you're doing, not try to sell it.
One thing about this is you just showed it outdoors somewhere.
We showed it at Bergamot Station.
And that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was great.
Have you done that before?
Yeah.
So you do like outdoor, like Hollywood Forever? They do things like that?
I'm chicken to do that there because she didn't like that place at all.
Oh, but I mean, is that what the kind of audience?
I showed this in the Museum of Science and Industry in Torino. I got invited to show it in the outdoor court.
Oh, you did? So that's so fabulous places.
Showed it in New York at Tribeca, and
And you just talked about showing it at Bergamot Station, which is a group of art galleries where you have a show, because we talked about this, and this is where we said, I don't want to miss out on this.
How did he get to making potholders?
How did it? Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know what? I used to make a lot of artwork. I used to do photos on concrete.
Tell us about that really quickly.
Well, I love concrete. Loved it. I'm an urban person. I used to do a lot of concrete sculptures in college. And I started painting on concrete. And then I thought, I want to get some of my images on the concrete. So I figured out ways of mixing emulsions and different kind of chemicals on the concrete. And then coating them and then developing in a darkroom.
Oh, they were actually like photographs.
They were photographs. And I hustled my work. I got signed to the gallery. I got in the gallery system by literally going to the galleries and saying, here's my slides. Would you look at them? And striking up a conversation with the people in the galleries, not desperate, I want to show, if you'd be interested in this, can we talk about it? Right. And I got signed to Jan Turner.
Oh, that's when you started showing with Jan.
Richard Heller and Bennett Roberts and Richard Heller were my first. Then Jan Turner.
So were they slabs of concrete?
They were small ones at the time, but they became slabs.
Sounds great.
Yeah, every single one of them got moved.
So we got from Anita O'Day showing over there.
Yep.
And then you had this pothole project with Craig Kroll.
Yes.
And
Hannah Sloan.
Hannah Sloan.
Yes.
So how could this be a piece of art?
Well, the thing was that I used to make the little ones because I had a scooter accident. I crashed my scooter on Pico and Crescent Heights. Somebody hit me. And I went to the doctor, and they said, you got to move your hands. Otherwise, your hands are going to fuse. And Anita had the fused arm from not moving it when she fell.
So you knew about it.
So I knew about it. I happened to go to Williams-Sonoma to get some potholders because I thought cooking would work. So then the potholders like $20 a piece. So I remembered they had potholder kits when we were kids. So I go on Amazon, and I go, look, 6 potholders for $15.
I remember those. Yes. We used to do them in crafts.
Yeah, exactly.
Summer crafts.
So I ordered the potholder kit. They came in the mail, and I fell in love. The colors were like beautiful, like wool. And Vincent van Gogh used to mix his colors to wool. He would get wool and mix his paints to the colors. So I thought, this is art. So I started making them and then putting them on the wall. I never used them as potholders.
Oh, and then you started, but the critics liken them to Joseph Albers, to pop culture, to Jeff Koons. How? Oh, well, Jeff Koons, pop culture, it's pop, right?
Well, yeah, it kind of is because they're these crazy giant objects, Klaus Oldenburg, and I worship all those guys because they make such great art. But they're really color studies for me.
Well, that's back to the Albers, right?
Yeah,
the color study.
The little ones were all about color. But the coolest thing was that in the middle of me making the little 7-inch ones, the potholder company came out with a 10-inch loom.
Oh.
So they're like bigger potholders and like 27 different colors. Then when I really started to get into them, because I was dyeing the white potholder loops myself. I was fabric dyeing them so I could get better colors than the kids' set that we
I was wondering about that. If you would want to enlarge what they were doing.
Well, that's when I came up with the giant one. I built a loom that was 8 foot.
Oh, you actually did this on a loom?
It's on a loom I built. This is on a 48-inch loom, but the big ones that you saw in the show, there's some 6-foot potholders.
Right.
They're on an 8-foot loom.
But how do you get this fabric? What's this fabric?
I go downtown to different fabric wholesalers and Michael Levine, and I pick fabrics that have a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, because this is a little stretchy.
Then I cut them into slices. I take these bands of fabric, depending on the size of the piece and the size of the loom, and I sew them together. Thank you, Alexis Arquette, for your sewing machine.
That's a great family, and that's a big musical acting family too. They're fabulous. So you started making these big things. They're like stretchy fabrics.
And
you sew them
sew
together.
the loops together. You hook them on these hooks. You put on these studs on the loom, and then you go this way, and then you weave them this way. But the crazy thing is, Joan, when you do it, where it gets into the color theory, you take, let's say I go, oh, I've got this beautiful orange, and I want to put it in. The orange, when you put it next to the blue, when it's weaved, turns to a completely different color. So that's where the color theory comes in. So I'm buying all this fabric, and then I go, oh, this is going to be beautiful. And then you get home and weave it, and it changes completely. And that's where I was like, okay, now this is really a challenge.
But that's part of what you learned. That was part of your background, right?
And color's my thing.
Yeah. So so when the critics talk about color, you've precisely put these colors together.
You better believe it.
You've worked every
this is
loop of this.
And exactly. This one is the one where you stare at it long enough on the white wall, and your eye makes it an after image, and the blue turns red and the red turns blue. Those colors. So it's an after image.
And when we were talking, Craig Kroll said, take this one. It's black and white. It was a black and white checkerboard, right?
Yeah.
So this was black, this was black,
right.
This was white, this was
white.
You
do half this way, and they make all these patterns, and it's endless.
Have you done? Can you make any kind of an image, or is it all?
That's next. That's next.
Can you make an image?
Yeah, that's next. I'm going to do that. I'm actually working on that. Robert Berman is doing a show which is a tribute to famous artists, and I'm doing a Mark Rothko potholder.
Oh, fantastic! So you have kits, though. Do you sell the kits?
Yeah, we make the kits.
How do you do that? What is that?
Well, I build the loom and I paint it all pretty.
And so it's in a big plastic bag?
Yeah, it's in a big bag, and then I put a potholder tag on the top that looks like you bought it at the Hobby Lobby,
And do you sign these?
I do, but they're signed and embroidered, labeled. Like my mom was a great knitter. She was totally blind, but she could knit the most incredible patterns. And my father would sew the sleeves onto the bodies for her.
Really?
Oh, yeah. My family's crazy. You wouldn't believe my family.
Really, really, really.
Well, my mother's little embroidered tags used to say, handmade by Shirley Cavolina. So I ordered those, but they haven't come yet.
Oh, so you're going to just tag them on
there? Yeah,
I'm
going to tag them on.
Are they going to be by Shirley, or are they going to be by Robbie?
Well, they might be. She passed away, but they might be. There's a little bit of all of them.
She's doing something there.
Well, my family's hot. My great-grandmother's brother was the Solomonsky Circus in Moscow, which is still going.
Oh.
Jewish on that side, Catholic on my father's side, and he got the Order of Lenin in 1933.
Your father did?
My great-grand-uncle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, the one that was in the circus?
It was his circus.
Oh, it
Albert
was his
Solomonsky.
Oh, wow.
And then my father's side, his father was a big mafiosa, and when he passed away, the New York Times wrote a whole article on him. Fabulous people.
And what I want to say is, have you ever cooked? Are you a chef?
Oh, of course, I love cooking.
You love. That's why you have your potholder. But you have all these tats.
Yeah.
And you have like chef stuff, right?
Yeah, I got some cooking
stuff.
So
we have a picture of your mom.
My mom and my dad. I didn't get it.
You have your cat.
I didn't get it. I have the Morton Salt Girl, which I don't know if you can see.
Oh, there she is. So I'm glad you came. We walked into everything that you had to say today.
Well, I'm so glad to be here. I'm excited to be here. Sorry if I'm a little hyper, but I'm so excited to sit here with you.
And I'm so glad to have you, Robbie. Thank you so
thanks.
much. And thanks for watching our show today. Keep writing to JAQUINN1 at AOL.com. We'll see you next time.